So we have a lot of updates about possible motivations of the shooter or lack thereof. We have lots of updates with regard to just what is an increasingly mind-blowing security failure, finger-pointing between the Secret Service and the local police who were involved in attempting to protect the president in Butler, Pennsylvania. But let's start with this. We had the FBI briefing members of Congress on what they were able to find on the shooter's phone and his electronic devices. And apparently, he had searched, along with things like major depressive disorder, he had also searched images of a variety of public figures, including Trump and Biden, along with dates of Trump appearances and the DNC in Chicago, according to a person who was on the call. Ryan, you had some interesting commentary earlier in the show about the profile that is emerging of the attempted assassin at this point.
Yeah, people's first impression, I think, of this guy, once they started to get just a little bit of information, was that he's a standard issue school shooter, which is the fact that such a thing exists is maybe the fiercest indictment of contemporary American culture that you can come up with. So it appears that he had some depressive personality and was just searching around for locations of Biden and Trump. But Biden, by not really campaigning, not really going out in the public, may have saved himself here. But imagine Trump's horrible luck that you've got this depressive, intelligent, 20-year-old who is just looking to go out in a blaze of glory. He's searching around for, famous figures and celebrities, and it's like, oh wow, Donald Trump is coming to Butler, Pennsylvania, and then further, there's a ladder just leading up to this low roof that is just 150 yards away from where he's going to be, and oh, look at that, nobody's going to be guarding it. Just literally unbelievable, actually.
Yeah, no, it truly is. I mean, as far as we can tell at this point, it's everyone, of course, immediately parses through any political background leanings. You had some reporting about this scam pack, Democratic scam pack that he gave $15 to on Joe Biden's inauguration day. But then on the other hand, he's a registered Republican. And so based on this search history, portrait really starts to emerge of someone who I think, the portrait of a school shooter is exactly correct. It's almost like suicide by cop, wanted to be notorious, wanted to be known in the history books, and was looking for any opportunity to do so, whether it was Trump, Biden, or some other famous political or other figure that he was going to try to take out. And then, the mounting information about the stunning nature of this security failure really is mind-blowing. One of the latest comments from the Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheadle, she was pressed on why no one was stationed on this roof, which seemed like very basic, obvious. You don't want someone to have a clear line of sight at the former president's head from within very easy striking distance. Why wasn't there anyone on the roof? She says that it was a little sloped, so it may have been a security concern. Let's take a listen to that.
When you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
Shock, and then concern, obviously, for the former president.
Investigators now trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing up seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
This is, of course, being roundly mocked, as it should be, because first of all, the safety concern, the safety concern you're supposed to be concerned with is protecting the former president of the United States and the Republican presidential nominee. And second of all, Ryan, you look at that roof and it's also barely sloped. So it's just an utterly mockable, preposterous dodge here from the Secret Service director.
It would be like saying, why did you leave him exposed to the shooter for so long? And it's like, well, bullets can kill people. And so if our agents would have, covered the president while he was being shot, that's a real security concern because the agents, could have been shot, which is true, but also that's the job of the Secret Service. And also that's like a 2-degree slope. Like, it's okay. Like you're gonna be okay. And the inside versus outside is also, completely preposterous. How do you secure the roof of a building from inside of it? I mean, you don't, obviously, but
right.
Like that this executive director or whatever her title is still in her role is itself shocking.
It truly is. It truly is at this point because the basics of the failures here, the more we learn about how long they had identified the shooter and flagged him as suspicious because he tried to bring a rangefinder into the secure area. So he was flagged and identified, and then they just lost sight of him. You had local police, you had him identified 30 minutes before the shooting occurred. You had people, local residents on the ground saying, we see this guy bear crawling up the roof with a gun. You see people on the ground at the rally. There's videos of we see him, he's got a gun. And Trump is still allowed to go out and give his rally speech and come within millimeters of this bullet, completely taking him out. I mean, if you've looked at these animations, it's utterly insane. The Secret Service director was also grilled by a CNN reporter about how this rooftop was unsecured and how small the protection perimeter ultimately was. Let's take a listen to this as well.
The Secret Service increased security for former President Trump because of a credible threat from Iran. I've spoken with several people who look at the perimeter, hearing that news, look at the perimeter and say, how, knowing that there was a credible threat against the former president, how could that perimeter be so small that it excluded a building just 150 yards away from the podium?
I can't get into the specifics of any threats, but obviously with all of our protectees, we're constantly monitoring the threats that are out there, and we design our security plan based on that, also depending on the venue and the environment that we're in. And on that particular day, a full advance had been completed. But this is also why we are doing an internal review, and we look forward to the external review as well. And obviously, if there are things that we need to change about our policies or our procedures or our methods, we are certainly going to do so.
Was that perimeter too small?
The perimeter encompassed the area that we needed to secure for the event that we had on that day. What happened is a terrible incident and should never happen. And we are obviously going to make sure that moving forward, we take whatever lessons that come out of this and adjust accordingly.
Was every element, every part of his, from the intelligence to the counter assault team, to the detail agents, to the shift agents, I mean, every element top to bottom of the advance in the operation, was every element increased after you learned of this credible threat?
What we increased was what we felt was appropriate for the former president and for that particular event on that day. We have been increasing the assets and the resources and the staffing that we have been providing to the former president since he was a presidential candidate and then the presumptive nominee. That's what I can tell you.
That sounds like a no.
I am not saying a no at all. I'm saying that we have continued to increase the resources that we've been providing to the former president.
So you've got the sloped roof excuse. You've got here a whole bunch of non-answers, effectively. And then the other effort from the Secret Service has been to put the blame on the local police who were enlisted in the protection effort. And there may be some blame to be laid there, by the way. But let's put this up on the screen, new reporting. Apparently, the local police had alerted the Secret Service before Trump's rally on Saturday that they lacked the resources to station a patrol car outside a key building where that gunman later positioned himself and shot at Trump. This was confirmed, by the way, by the Secret Service that the local police department did not have the manpower to assist in securing that building. So what it appears from this account is that the Secret Service asked them to secure it. They said, no, we can't. We just literally don't have the resources. And then it wasn't secured. We also have more reporting in this article about the early warnings with regard to this shooter being identified. Local media reported that before the shooting, a municipal counter sniper had called in with a report and a photograph of that man who turned out to be Crooks acting suspiciously. Another local news station reported that officer called in around 5:45 p.m. That is 26 minutes before Crooks opened fire from the roof. And a local newspaper in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, also reported similarly that counter sniper, Gregory Nickel, made a warning of this kind. Just astonishing, Ryan.
Yeah, it really is. And my early speculation was that perhaps the local police that were supposed to secure this building got lazy and it was just too hot in the parking lot and went inside of the building. But it sounds like no, can't even blame them for that. They said, look, we don't have the manpower to do this, and the Secret Service did not respond by then filling the gap, which is their job. The answers from the Secret Service chief just utterly ridiculous. Was the perimeter too small? She responds by saying, well, the perimeter was the area that we were defending. Like, stop just giving us definitions of things. Like, we know that. But, you were 150 yards away. There's a guy scampering up a roof and squeezing off like 8 shots or whatever at the president of the former president of the United States. Just complete and utter failure. And it's really impossible to blame Trump supporters who look at that and think like they didn't care. Like either they were actively involved in this, or they wanted it to succeed, and so they didn't give him the resources that he needed. And that was the question that the CNN reporter asked there. It's like, okay, the reporting here is that you're claiming. I think this is. I don't believe the reporting on this, but they're saying that Iran, there's recent threats that Iran wants to take out Donald Trump in response for him killing Qasem Soleimani. Who knows if that intel is remotely accurate or not. But if that's the case, that the Secret Service was told there's a heightened risk on President Trump, and as you can tell from her answer there, they did not up the resources that were going to him. In every capacity. She used this kind of present tense, like we were increasing the resources that we were offering, which suggests that maybe they were pretending that they were going to do it in the future. You can't really blame Republicans for being paranoid and asking questions about how firm the Secret Service's commitment was to this. Now, I still think that incompetence, but is there some malicious incompetence here? It's impossible to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's plenty here, too. If you're inclined to think that there is some sort of conspiracy or, as you put it, very aptly, malicious incompetence, there's plenty of fuel for that narrative. There's no doubt about it. And we also have an interview with local police talking about, because one of the things we've also learned is that local police had responded to these indications from normal citizens on the ground. Hey, there's a guy up on that roof. They went and attempted to climb up on the roof. Then the shooter points at the local police officer. He drops to the ground, and then the shooter takes aim at the former president at that point. So, learning this was part of like, well, what the hell? You just let him take shots at the former president? What the hell happened here? We have their side of the story of how this all unfolded. Let's take a listen to that.
In fact, see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter.
He did.
Your officers are on patrol. They hear that there is a suspicious person on the rooftop. What did your officers do?
So our officers in the area started to converge on the building. My understanding is they did a full perimeter walk of the building. Weren't able to see up on the roof. 2 of the officers went to what appeared to be the lowest point from ground to roof. One of the officers actually boosted the second officer up high enough for him to grab hold of the roof. When he was able to pull his head up over the roof, he did in fact see an individual on the roof with a weapon.
He saw the shooter.
He did.
And what did the shooter do?
Turned towards him, had the barrel of his weapon pointed at the officer.
At that point, the officer's hanging on
Yes.
to the side of the roof,
Yes.
unable to pull a gun out,
Unable to
defend himself, unable to reach his radio.
Any of that. Yeah. Strictly defensive movement for him to lower his head, duck, lost his own grip, right? Fell approximately 8 feet to the ground.
That's a steep drop.
It's a good drop, yes.
Did he get hurt?
He did.
In that moment, did they realize there's a threat right now to the former president?
They did. So both the boosting officer and the officer that fell were both on the radio, indicating that there was an individual on the roof that did in fact have a weapon.
Who did they radio?
So there was a blanket tactical channel being
Everyone
used.
heard it.
Everyone that was on that tactical channel heard it, yes.
How much time between that radio communication and the gun being fired at the former president?
That I don't have that information.
I mean, it really is like a Keystone Cops type of situation that he's spelling out here, where they're getting these reports, there's someone on the roof. boosting each other on their shoulders to get up there, dropping to the ground, completely failing to prevent the threat. And then that key question at the end of, okay, well, when you put this notice out to the blanket tactical channel that everyone had access to, how long between then and when shots are fired? And he doesn't have an answer to that one.
That's the key question. The reporting is that it's just kind of seconds, but that is a key question. If there's anything more than seconds involved there, then because at the same time, the counter sniper for the Secret Service had identified and was in communication with leaders at that moment, and they're saying, no, you don't have authorization to take this shot, and that's why the counter sniper was able to take the shooter out within seconds of him starting. But then it raises the question of, well, just why not get Trump down?
Right.
Like, okay, you don't have to necessarily blow the guy's brains out if you're not 100% certain of what's going on here. But what's so eerie about all of these videos of the crowd yelling, gun on the roof, is you can hear Trump speaking in the background. It's like, just tackle the guy, take him down, and then if you screwed up and it's a false alarm, it's okay. Like, the old man will have a couple bruises, but then he can get back up and continue delivering his speech. So that is really the moment where kind of their refusal to kind of act leaves so much responsibility on them. It's because we're not expecting them to be like Tom Cruise or Jason Bourne and like hold onto the roof with one hand and like duck down and grab their weapon and like shoot behind their back or whatever. Like that this is not Hollywood. But you can like surround the president and protect him.
Right. Well, you also, I mean, you would think as a layperson, they would have some ability to get on the roof in a way that if there is, you're being told there's a credible threat out
Like
there.
he got up there. This 20-year-old kid got up there.
Right. And you're not able to approach this in any sort of manner other than getting boosted on someone's shoulders and then falling to the ground. I mean, it's just, that's insane. And then the fact that we know that there were reports of the shooter being suspicious and trying to come in with a rangefinder, and then they lose sight of him 26 minutes before Trump goes on. It also raised the question, why was he allowed to go on stage at all when there were such questions being raised and such concerns being raised? So I agree with you. It is absolutely insane the Secret Service director is still in place. I cannot imagine how that is the case. The sloped roof thing is utterly preposterous. Her non-answers and obvious failures, utterly preposterous. Like I said, I don't think the local police are off the hook here. But if they told the Secret Service, we don't have the manpower to secure this roof, and the Secret Service was just like, I'm sure it's fine. We'll just deal with it. It's no big deal. Just go inside and, stay cool inside the building that is supposed to be secured. It truly is astonishing.
Yeah, very much.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.